Guys, I mean, no big deal. We're just going to check in on the lowly plebs in the 1,000 rank range. It's time to check in on a rank 1,080th player here. It's the Viper. Ayo, what up? Welcome back, Snake Man. We missed you. Viper is, of course, back playing. He played a few games yesterday. Interestingly enough, his first ranked game back, he got Mr. And you can catch that one on one of the YouTube videos if you want. But this is the most recent game he played. The last one he played yesterday, which was up against Blade 55555. It's a lot of fives. There aren't as that many fives in his rank. For those who are unaware, the uneducated on who Blade is, if you haven't been checking out one of the NA lads, this is an aspiring pro. He's trying to get better at AoE4. He's trying to get those deep runs. And you know what? He's definitely starting to run up the ladders. 79th in the world right now is a respectable place. This guy is no pushover. Although he is up against one of the AoE GOATs. And Viper, maybe looking a little bit behind on some builds, but not a complete pushover. I'm curious to see what he's going to do with the English in this matchup. Because although it is, you know, the Snake Man, although he's been away for a while, he understands what the meta usually is here on Altai. It hasn't really changed too much. It's still usually English and Chinese being picked. You either mirror each other or you pick the other. We have seen a little bit of deviation. A few players really like to go for the HRE, and I actually quite like Wham, for example, going to the Mongols, because I think they are able to close the game very quickly and to be annoying. But a lot of the time, it's still English and Chinese. By the way, I realized like people got confused when I'd done it in the recording about saying I am going to 2 times the early game just because we're on the clock. We're doing this towards the end of the stream, so I want to make sure that we squeeze it in. So 2 times for a little bit of the early game. Viper already opening up a farm, so it looks like he's going for scalability. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to field aggression and he's rushing castle. The farm setup this early can actually still lead to a long feudal. What it does, though, is it insulates you against the economical pressure of that. You keep everything condensed, you get good gathering rates, and you start to churn out a lot of troops. It does mean, however, your feudal timing by default is going to be slower. Also means if you want to go for a TC boom type build, you're also going to be suboptimal compared to the Chinese. What I'm expecting here is probably some sort of feudal aggression, a blockage on the Chinese escalation into a castle age timing. What I want to see is how Blade's going to react to that, because he's going to go for a standardized build into the Imperial Academy and then up into the Barbican afterwards. Probably looking at the Song Dynasty double TC build. That's going to put some pressure on Viper. He's definitely going to be the one who has to make moves here, because the Chinese are going to try to get through to their more comfortable phase in the game, where they're looking at 80, 90, 100 eco, as well as Castle Age unlocked. And then, if they get that opportunity, if you haven't actually optimized your economy to seek Imperial in the English, the Chinese are actually capable of taking Imp first and applying pressure. That sounds weird, I know, for a lot of people, but I'm actually a really big fan of it, because what it allows you to do as the Chinese, you can then set up for Chuge Nu with Spirit Way and get aggressive. Something that is actually criminally underrated for several players still, I've only seen a few utilizing it so far, is the idea of Chinese Chuge Nu in Imperial Age as a pseudo-tank DPS unit. Due to the fact they heal when one goes down and they get an attack speed buffer, they're actually really scary in the late game. We'll have to see if he gets a chance to utilize it, though. We're thinking very deep. Let's think about early. Barbican is going to come out. Meanwhile, Viper on the other side has now teched up in the feudal. We'll begin the push of the longbowman for the Council Hall. Keep in mind that because he has got this farm set up, he's solid. He's sword. He's insulated. The only worry is in the coming minutes, this woodline is going to thin out, and his secondary woodline is quite exposed. So if he does ever let up off the pressure, and Blade realizes this, he might have an opportunity to move out and apply pressure the other way. Now wall's going to go up. However, those walls are not going to stop these evil longbowmen from being a pain in the arse. They're going to force Blade to invest in a second lumber camp on the west side. Frustrating, actually, because what Viper has done here is he's deprived value of the Imperial Academy. The Imperial Academy is now only servicing the mill. It's not having an effect on the lumber camp. In fact, I'm pretty sure that, yes, the mining camp isn't even in range. Wow, I'm a little bit surprised. I feel like the Imperial Academy could have been dropped one deeper, and you would have been able to cover the lumber camp as well as the mining camp. Even if you try to think of this from the logic of keeping more lumber camps in range as you go deeper, that wouldn't have done it. The only reason I actually think that Blade went for this configuration is he wanted to get taxation off of the stone outcropping, but that was ambitious. And I think he now realizes that. He's up against an English player. Playing forward stone outcropping would have been dangerous due to how delayed your timing is. Instead, he's going to have to look to the stone outcropping on the south side. In the meantime, he's going to be forced to get some military out. Weird choice to go into the racks, though. A little bit surprised by this, but now it makes sense. He's going up into the castle age. This will allow him to get the Palace Guard. Palace Guard, which are going to push Viper back, and Viper is not yet ready for castle. Has insulated himself. You can see that the farm count has now gone up to 17. So this is going to allow him to very quickly get into castle and then afford the first knights. But in the meantime, it means that he's going to get limited value out of these Lombos. They're going to be pushed away. Palace Guard's going to clean up. Then the worry is that there's going to be a flood through. And remember what we said about this wood line? If it's over-leveraged, you're going to find yourself in dangerous territory up against Palace Guard. The good news for Viper fans, he hasn't been getting too much wood. Because he's playing condensed, because he's looking for a castle age rush up off the back of eco expansion and how cheap these farms are, he actually didn't need that many people on wood. So he still has plenty in reserve, and it means he should be able to get a reaction in place to this Palace Guard before he needs to move out into dangerous eco. And Blade. I know I say Palace Guard are fast, but they're not usually this fast. Reminder, this is on 2x speed. I still want to see someone mod the game for 2x speed games in general. I think that it would be cool to see a tournament ran on that. It would be so hectic. Blade right now, with the Palace Guard blades out, is going to start diving in, forcing idle ecos. Viper is forced to garrison, but the Knights are there to react. Remember, 1-on-1, these Knights will win. The difference is that the Palace Guard are meant to be cheaper, but even 2-on-1, the Knights still fare pretty damn well, having double the damage. So it's really not that good for you. You need to be up to 3 Palace Guard versus 1 Knight. That's where it really starts to kind of convert. In mass, the Palace Guard can be incredibly effective. But what makes it even more frustrating is when the Knights are on the defense for the English, they get the attack speed buffer, so they're even more effective at countering you out. Blade. It's hard on stone right now. Needs to get that secondary TC. Remember, he was forced to rush Castle Age to defend, so he hasn't gone for the secondary TC yet. So he hasn't been as efficient as he wants to be. And that's why Viper has been able to start closing this gap where the Chinese should already be clearly ahead. But now that the second TC is going to be going up, there's no chance that Viper can catch up to him, which means that Viper's going to have another target in mind. One thing we know Viper loves to do, historically, he's always looking towards his relics. Monastery has been dropped. Remember that he's got the Knight, so he now controls mid-map, and that means that you should be able to access the lion's share of these relics. In fact, every single relic on the map is accessible to him right now, and it doesn't look like Blade's trying to intercept anywhere anytime soon. Well, Nice intercepting from the backside of the base. Blade is going to have to answer with his own lances, but never able to actually touch them. And now the walls are going to go up. Love that he's doing this. He's just trying to get double value. He's going to have reserve wood lines as well as the relic being blocked back here. And he does have enough lances to push back for the time being. Needs to be pushing quick out to get this wall up. You can see the village now coming out for that. It does seem like he's being really stingy with only one villager, but remember that the Chinese build at double the speed. Double the speed because we're playing it 2 times still. Lancers are actually baiting him. Blade is playing this right. He just needs to make sure he stays out of range of the schematics. And it looks like he is going to draw them the right way. Good maneuvering, great micro over there by Blade to make sure that the wall up doesn't get revealed. Because otherwise, Viper would have struck straight away at the villager, so he kept that open. And it looks like nothing is open anymore. Blade has covered all entries. The only one that you can go for is a dive directly past the Barbican. Not exactly what Viper wants to be looking towards. I mean, sure, you've got heavily armored knights, but remember, a lot of the damage does go through due to these hand cannons hitting for 25 damage each shot. You're only having 4 ranged armor. I wonder what Blade's intent is here. He knew he was going to be forced to a farm transition. Frustrating, but was always going to happen on a map like Altai. My question mark is what comes next. You don't want to turn this into a let's both get Imperial. I did mention that the Chinese, with a quicker Imperial Age timing, can really turn the screws. But it doesn't really look like he's going for that. Instead, he's trying to mass units in Castle Age. I think this is the correct approach to this matchup. You need to combat your opponent now, and you need to shrink the map, because it does feel like Viper's getting everything for free right now. Lancers. Not really able to find too much value so far. Healthy composition coming out. Viper just going for the one of everything. You know what type of person he's going to be in the Wendy's. You know, he's got to have everything on the menu. Lombos, crossbows, men-at-arms, spears, knights. Anything and everything. He's not sure what he's going to be up against next, but what he does know is he wants to be upping the pressure. Viper now moving out for a keep in the center. Will consolidate control around the sacred sites. That'll allow him to capture these and then force Blade to come out of his base sooner than he's maybe ready. It doesn't look like Blade still isn't ready. He's trying to escalate that Lancer count, but you can see that Viper doesn't care about Lancers anymore. He's switching into counters to it. Front line as well as crossbows. And with the keep drop here as well as the siege workshop behind, he's prepping for a quick siege into the base of Blade. This is going to force his hand. Blade. Remember, one of the biggest issues on our side, you know, people argue, what's the limited resource here? Is it gold? Is it wood? Is it food? It's space. Not the final frontier. It's the first challenge to overcome, because if the game's going to go long, you need to configure your base to scale for it. And you can see how quickly this space is drying up for Blade. It means he's going to have to come out soon. We're going to hit it down to 1x in a moment here. For the moment, it's just still a kind of stagnant stalemate. Blade needs to get an answer to the keeps, which is going to have to be the trebuchets. On the other side, remember that Viper can also get his own trebs, but needs to sort his wood first of all. Like these stockpiling stone, this will allow for a secondary keep drop, or if you start to get pressure coming out from the Chinese, you can always keep repairing. I'll keep you up for longer. It's been going up. Viper is going up in age. Not happy birthday. I'm talking about a tech up. Wingard Palace is coming out. Viper postures it more aggressively, so he'll be able to get the trebuchets to the front line fast. And it looks like Blade is not aware of this right now. Very slow in his approach because he did not have the wood together to get the trebuchets out fast. Really feels like he's playing one step behind, and the breach is coming on the backside. Viper is going to force the attention back here, but a quick wall comes out from Blade. Chinese able to build it just fast enough. Few villages going down, but a worthwhile price. And now we're going to hit it down to 1x speed, because this is where things get very delicate. And power can shift very fast. Blade is at least freeing up more room, and you can see how awkward this is getting. If any stage Viper masses Knights, he could flood through, because the walls are just not there for Blade. Sacred sites are finally being captured, so this is where Viper's going to start to turn up the heat. Force Blade to hop out of that frying pan. And there's some questions on why the Siege Workshop got placed by Viper. There's a good reason behind this. You saw he wanted to prioritize the Springwood, but also the network of citadels. Yes, you can build Siege out of the keep, but it takes a long time. You want to get network of citadels as quickly as possible. Otherwise, you run the risk of your keep being taken out before you actually get it. So that's why you go for the Siege Workshop behind. It also is important to get these tech ups. You'll notice he's going for the Springwood with the Shatter Triggers, but more importantly, it's going to be things like greased axles and shattering projectiles. You can only get these techs if you have a Siege Workshop. Although there is a big question mark on whether he'll get the techs in time. Blade wants to punish him for this tech up. Remember, Viper really did stinge on the military. 13 to the 59, and Blade now wrapping around. He has a free route into the back of the English base. Viper, way too gluttonous not walling this off. Viper also really lacking the food to get a clear army out to defend right now. This is going to be problematic. The plus side, at least for Viper, limited melee, which means limited torch damage on the infrastructure. And this is the problem, actually, for Blade. I think he went a little bit too hard in the crossbow, and he probably realizes it now. They're not really countering anything out. This is kind of one of those weird issues where the enemy not having an army is worse for you, because it means you're dealing with static defenses that are going to get more value against these squishy units. With limited melee and those being targeted out first, it means less torch damage to deal with the buildings that are going to be building into the better units. The elite men-at-arms, the elite lombos, the hand cannoneers that will eventually build you out. Now, one upside for Blade, with Shuge Nu and crossbows here, if he parks himself right in the center of the military production lines, he can kill anything that spawns, and you're seeing he's doing that right now. Diver is going to continue to support the Lancers, but if he parks himself around this area, anything that spawns is going to be killed. It does feel like Viper has made a mistake here. He needs to get more military productions elsewhere. I say a mistake, it's a forced error. Like, this is optimal for him going for a push timing around the 25 minutes, but this is a remarkably good read by Blade. He blocks out any value you get from this right now. You see the Lombos, like, they're coming through and they're slowly chipping away, but they're not efficient in doing so. It's kind of a Congo line of death situation. That being said, with the Chicken is slowly dying, and the Lombos also coming out the council hall. It feels like this production district is a little bit too wide for Blade to pin down any longer. He's trying to get new troops in, but you can see the problem with this is you're now trickling in troops at a comparative rate to what Viper is producing at home. And with your army already starting to fall on the front line, this means that eventually Viper's going to stabilize and take control. And after all this, Blade has just sacrificed his ability to go Imperial Age and hasn't really done anything with it. He's bogged down Viper, sure. But Viper is realizing his Imperial potential. I think this is where Blade just realizes it as well. He can't hang around any longer. Troops have to retreat. You can say he delayed this, but there is a big question mark on what he gained out of delaying it. He didn't really move for mid-map resources. He's still pinned in on the sides, hasn't come out of his hole. You know, he went and decapped a Sacred Site at least, so that is definitely something. And he did get rid of the keep. But the recovery time is my concern. This is the one-up I was looking for. Blade now coming in from the keep drop is a big deal. He's going to block out the Wingard Pass. The Wingard Pass is about to go down. I question what he was getting out of this. The trebuchets did not stop at the keep. They're getting rid of the Wingard. No more Trebs coming out for Viper. This is actually a really good play out of Blade. You know, I'm going to correct myself, admit I was wrong. I didn't see the other part of the picture. These trebuchets paid for themselves, and now Blade has a staging point. The double down is going to be effective because this time around, it's not just crossbows diving in and taking out spawning units. It's crossbows oppressing Viper's scalability, while trebuchets also take out his ability to scale. My oh my, Blade. He's really turning up the heat. He's educating Viper on an important lesson here on why you don't just rush Imperial Age or willy-nilly. Some people right now are probably coming this one like Viper Pod, GOAT of all times. They forgot about good old Blade. He's been working hard. He's been grinding hard. Blade. It's a struggle to see how Viper now recovers this, actually. He's set up so many farms behind his base, he doesn't actually have room for new production. I actually think Blade, at this rate, is going to get Imperial. And by the time he does, he could delete half of Viper's base. And Viper will have no recourse. And yeah, I see it in chat. USA! USA! China USA allegiance a little bit too strong here, huh? China looking a bit too strong here. Now the Lance is also being renewed, so Blade has the ability to dive in and shut down the eco as well as the production lines. Wouldn't be surprised if Blade starts targeting housing. You can see Viper right now, he hasn't actually reached 200 pop caps, so if you take these out, which they're very easy to do, bye-bye ability to even field an army. But you can achieve the same by taking out all the production buildings. It also forces a bigger reinvestment for Viper. Like, you could take out these houses, but houses are cheap, right? You're not really paying much to replace them. Meanwhile, to replace each of these racks, these stables, these archery ranges, you pay 3 times the price. Diving, getting a little bit too deep from Blade. Is going to regroup. Still has the military pop cap lead. And Blade, if he sorts his gold, this is going to be a tech up. And it's going to be a very strong one. Now, considering he's relying mainly on crossbows and Chuge Nu, I would love to see Spirit Wear here. There's enough Chuge Nu that you're going to benefit from this. Then again, if he wants to go full Lancers, you might see more value in going for the Great Wall Gatehouse right on top of Viper's remains, because he'll never reclaim this territory at that point. And the keep drop is going to allow Blade to once again get deeper. The importance of these keeps is it protects the trebuchets, so it allows him to peel off his army and dive. He doesn't have to stay back and look after the trebuchets anymore. Viper. Defensive keep coming out. Raids on the backside, shutting down farms as well. This is getting uncomfortable for the Snake. And we call him the Snake for a good reason. Sometimes he finds a way, slithering out of the biggest of messes. He's going to need to slither out like he belongs to House Slytherin. Because this is not an easy one to come back from. He's got room to expand south side, but it feels so distant from your base. Remember, one landmark is down, a second one now being targeted. The good news for him, King's Pass is at the very back of his base. The bad news is if that is the last leg you have to stand on, heavy group of Lancers could dive in and kill you because the King's Pass only has half the HP of the other landmarks. My oh my, Blade. Still hasn't imped up. He really should just be imping up now. He has so much food, wood. He could trade for the remaining gold. The reason he hasn't imped up, by the way, is a lack of access to gold. He finally came out into the vein on the west side. This is where he'll search forward. In the meantime, his army is shifting in deeper into the base of Viper. Viper, the only move he could make. Horseman will push past and go straight for the trebuchets, but limited value maintained here. Gets rid of 2 of them, still 2 remaining, which will continue to get rid of the forward infrastructure. Monastery already went down, so Viper, lacking the gold income he was looking at before, has at least got the benefit of all of these farms with enclosures. I say all these farms. Several of them are just not working due to the fact that they're on the front line. Blade continue to go deeper, and it is going to be the Great Wall Gatehouse. Yes, Blade! I love this. This is playing to win right now. The Spirit Way seems cool in theory, but he doesn't need it. The Chugenu do not need the benefit of this. This Great Wall Gatehouse is just another posturing point. It allows him to go deeper with the trebuchets and once again peel off and not defend them. His army's going to dive, they'll trade out, and there's no risk of the remaining siege being lost because it's going to be protected by these Nest of Bees on the Great Wall Gatehouse as well as the keeps. For those right now who haven't tuned in a while going, what Nest of Bees, what you're on about, remember the Great Wall Gatehouse got changed. You can see it there. Nest of Bees emplacements exist on this thing by default. You know what the other thing is he could do here? He could even cheese some walls through and then put Chugenu on top of the walls. As you just saw, when you're near the Great Wall Gatehouse, on the walls, you get 25% more range damage. Well, tech up complete. Nest of Bees. About to put on a fireworks show for Viper. Trebs joining in on that as well. TC soon to go down. Viper running out of places to run and hide. Alongside it, running out of places to rebuild his production lines. You see how much he's struggling here. Blade, always at pop cap. Viper, it feels like a distant memory. In fact, it's been so long since he's even needed the last house to be at 200 because he never reached 190 pop cap. Trebuchets are getting deeper into the base. That means they're going to expose more of this production line and more of the farms. Shout out to all the subs coming through. I see you, Jor. I see you, Fantastoni. This is a fantastonical match I'm watching right now from Blade. I don't even know if that's a word. I made it up. All because of you. It's a fantastico match from Blade. Winning not with blades, funnily enough, but actually with bolts. Mass bolts, the Chugenu. Remember what we said. In high quantities, they can actually beat Lombos. The attack speed buffer at least gives Viper a leg to stand on. It just doesn't matter. Trading an army for an army isn't good enough. He needs better than that. Trebs going in for the win. Unable to get it, though. Looks like the Bombard will save the day. Trebuchets go down. Blade, if he can actually get a full siege workshop with an Imperial official and push out 3 trebuchets, he could actually kill Viper right now. Definitely has the wooden goal to do so. It seems going to be a slow push. Can't wait, Trebuchet coming from across the battlefield. Blade taking his time, and interestingly enough, Viper is not repairing anything here. He can't afford to have the gaps. He can't afford the wood elsewhere. He needs it into military and rebuilding every building he loses. Nest of Bees again, such a bloody nuisance to dive here. What a play. I just love the aggressive Great Wall Gatehouse. And the brilliant thing is the Chinese are the civ that could utilize a landmark like this the best. Remember, they build these up faster. It's why it's getting so much value here. Any other civ might struggle to build this up before a response came out, but not the Chinese. People asking, is Viper back? He's back to AoE 4, but when it comes to this game, he's going to be back to the lobby. It's very difficult to see a way back in at this stage. Blade really has him by the long curlies. Again, at least pressure back. Bombards at least starting to put a dent in the defenses, but Blade needs to counter the Lombo ball. Nest of Bees really would be a good solution, and it looks like he's finally realized it. He's queuing them up, but I really wish he would get some Fort Siege workshops. It's such a long way to walk these out. He's just not getting them on the front line fast enough. Nest of Bees. There's a tunnel in this Great Wall Gatehouse is at least having good impact, though, and you can see as soon as these Lombos start to come in range, they get torn to shreds. Now, these Bombards are starting to tear this keep a new one. However, the problem right now for Viper is despite the fact he's in the back of his base, he wasn't getting attack speed. Finally, he realizes that, yes, Viper sets up the outpost. The attack speed aura is there. And once again, it's a one-sided affair. Blade not able to match up against the trades for the time being. Keep is going to crumble. Nestabe's finally arriving, which should stop a deeper push from coming out. But right now, Blade needs an answer to these bombards where he's at risk of losing his forward infrastructure. After all this effort, after everything that was going so well, Blade's lack of forward infrastructure may be his undoing here. Viper getting an opportunity to recover. Nestabe's, however, are putting a big exclamation mark next to that plan. My God, the damage on this thing. Whew. Bye. Even the villagers. Guys, honestly, this landmark is no joke. I wish they added a kill count for units, because I want to know how many units the Great Wall Gatehouse have killed. It's got to be pretty damn high. Just look at the flurry there. 250 damage. Holy crap. Viper. Even after all that, because he lost the bombards, I'm a little bit concerned, actually. Viper just ran out of wood. You can see he's playing on the flanks now. Limited wood in reserve. That could be his undoing, considering he's so reliant on it for horsemen, for lombos, and for siege. Meanwhile, look at Blade. He's having a field day. There's plenty of wood left in the mid-map, and he has full control, not to mention the flanks that he can easily exploit. After a shaky moment, Blade is quick on the recovery. Now into Horseman as well as Chugenu. With incendiary arrows to follow, he actually has the composition to now counter Viper. And now the bombards. He says, enough of the trebuchets. I'm an Imperial Age. What the hell am I doing to myself? First things first, get rid of that outpost. Looks like he wants the Treb gone, but the outpost is more important here. Because the outpost is giving the attack speed buffer that's keeping Viper in this fight. Looks like he finally realizes that outpost is going to be taken out. Remember, there is no other ring-a-ding-ding going on, as the keep and the King's Pass is too far away. Looks like Bombard is being distracted. What's going on here? He just needs to strike at once. I feel like he's losing a lot more troops than need be. It's finally going to be brought down. Volley is going to be activated, so Viper supplementing for the time being. Chugenu lines are starting to escalate. Bombard is going to be brought down, and I don't know, man. Despite Viper's best attempts, I think the issue is that this battle is being lost elsewhere. It's being lost in the eco. He doesn't have a way of keeping this up indefinitely. You can see that Blade isn't going to be pushed out of here anytime soon. Even though you address the keep, the problem is you can't address the Great Wall Gatehouse, because repairing this only costs wood. The range on this thing is just absurd. 10 tower range, guys. Same range as a bombard, by the way, which is why he couldn't kill it with bombards. His only option to kill it is indeed trebuchets. And trebuchets are slow right now because the network of citadels is just not being triggered. Chugenu with his citadel arrows. Gatling gun boys here. Arrow volley coming out from Viper. He'll try to snipe the bombard. He might even get it. But what about the Chugenu? Oy. That's what about the Chugenu. They're good. They're very good. Man, Blade, to his credit, he played this right. He understood that he couldn't rush Imperial once he saw Viper got it. It looked very dangerous, but his timing was on point to punish. And after that, from the push in, the dive into the military production line so the Viper couldn't get online, to the Ford keep drops, the Great Wall Gatehouse, so much of this late game was played perfectly by Blade. And you can argue maybe small details like trebuchets not being massed on the front line to end the game faster. There are elements to this that Blade could definitely optimize, but his overall strategy was good. Viper just got stuck in a rut. Learned the hard way. The Curse of Altai. The Curse of Altai is limited space. You can see how limited his space is in this game. Looks like that should be the end of the game. Now that the King's Pass is accessible, now that you've got nothing left to stand and defend with, GG is going to be cool. Blade, great victory here in Altai. Viper is back. That's someone to be excited for, but also Blade getting dubs against some of the best in AoE. Also someone to be excited for.